really.
I mean, I have my own army. But it's just me, but.
Hey, I'm building up mine.
And my 3 daughters.
Right.
I was going to say my wildcats, my kids, the leopard gecko. But all right, well, let's dig into this and really start talking a bit about what's going on here. Because first off, one thing people's going to realize is Mr. Pancake is definitely able to be seen at this time. So, I mean, everyone's so used to seeing a blurred image. Now they're going to see him actually clean his nails, and it looks like I have a cat climbing up the back of my chair. But, but the fact is Mr. Pancakes is now no longer behind the blur. He's here in person, can be seen for all of his quirkiness. So when he describes himself as a gorilla, you can actually understand why.
And you might be saying, cover it back up.
Cover it up. Yeah, so yes, my arms like
22-inch pythons, like Hulk Hogan.
Yeah. I'm not a big muscle man or nothing, but I mean, I'm thick and large. So yes, I'm like 240, 6 foot, but I don't really have a lot of fat. So,
well, I wish I could say the same, but luckily I'm not hairy.
Yeah, I have dumbbells at the house, and they're kind of like. I need to start going to a gym because the dumbbells don't cut it anymore, and I have 50 pounds, I have 100 pounds, and I can lay down with 100 pounds, and I just do this with 100 pounds. It doesn't do anything, so I don't know.
I like Tom's suggestion. Just do the dumbbells, but have your kid lay on it as well now.
Yeah, just go do like one of those workout videos where they like hang like giant chains from everything. They're all broed out.
like strongman workouts.
Yeah.
Out there
I gotta make sure
boulders in the backyard.
I gotta make sure I wear my hat with the flat bill and the sticker still underneath it.
Yeah.
That guy.
Can't lose with that.
All my supplements behind me.
Yeah.
Look at my 45 supplements. I'm totally healthy.
Yeah.
I'll die at 53 with liver disease, but I'll have huge muscles.
Huge muscles.
Yeah, that's one thing is I tried some of those, like, what was it, keratin or something like that?
Yeah.
And I tried
creatine.
it, then creatine, that's what it's called, yeah.
Creatine, yeah.
Yeah, mainly because I was, well, the one I got was supposed to be all natural, no fillers, blah, blah, blah. Well, of course, they all say that, right?
Right.
No extra wood chips in your mix.
The creatine's good. I mean, you can. It's okay to take a little bit as long as you're not like. I mean, sorry, excuse me, I just ate something. So, anyways, creatine. When you take creatine, I mean, if you go and buy like a thing of creatine and you're actively working out and you take it every day. In addition to your protein, I mean, you'll gain muscle quick. You know, it's good for you in that regards. But what about it? Flooding your body full of creatine is good for you. There's creatine in almost everything you eat. You know what I mean? So just eating all your food, and maybe like if you buy a protein, you want to supplement that stuff like a whey protein. I'd like to stick to meat processed proteins, but they're expensive. But some of them have just a little bit in them. That's plenty. That's all you need. I mean, you don't gotta go nuts and be all like protein, creatine, yeah. You're just gonna like you said, burn your liver out.
Yeah. See, for me, I started doing the creatine because of I was staying up I was only getting 2 or 3 hours of sleep at night for quite a while because of my daughter. Yeah. And I heard that creatine was supposed to help with that lack of sleep issue and so on and so on.
There's multiple studies on sleep deprivation for creatine.
Yeah. So that's why I started it. I still have quite a bit of it left, but I stopped using it because, one, it was making me a little more jigglier than I liked, and Yeah,
because it'll make you gain weight, that's for sure.
Yeah, which is something they don't tell you. They're like, oh, it's fantastic for working out. It helps with your sleep. Well, they don't tell you if you're not working out every day, taking it with protein,
right,
you're going to become jiggly. Yeah,
jiggly.
So
it just packs on weight because it's just water. It just packs on, floods your body full of water. That's what it does. And basically, if you're actively working out and actively taking protein, that it basically floods your body full of water and forces the protein into your muscles better. You know what I mean? So if your natural self forces 1 gram of protein per muscle fiber, taking creatine will force 2 or 3.
Bro science
that way. Yeah, bro science. Bro science. Yeah.
So speaking of lack of sleep and all this stuff, how about we look at the topic at hand of Father Forgets. This is a poem that I think is good for the three of us to talk about because one, and Tom, I'll let you read it in a moment so that people can understand.
Yeah, I got it pulled up here. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. But one, it's a poem that really digs into the heart of forgetting that your kid is not to your standards, to your level, things like that, and trying to judge them like you would a coworker. So how about this, Tom? How about you read what you have, and then we'll go into discussing and being able to see what we all think about it.
Yeah, so it's a poem by a guy named W. Livingston Larned, and I'm sure that most people that are aware of the poem have probably heard of it through the book How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. That's where it was. I think most people know it from there, but it was a poem long before that book, and Carnegie just borrowed it to use in his book because it was relevant. So I'll go ahead and proceed with it. It's a little lengthy, so bear with me for a moment. Listen, son, I am saying this as you lie asleep, one little paw crumpled under your cheek and the blonde curls stickily wet on your damp forehead. I have stolen into your room alone. Just a few minutes ago, as I sat reading my paper in the library, a stifling wave of remorse swept over me. Guiltily, I came to your bedside. There are things I was thinking, son. I had been cross to you. I scolded you as you were dressing for school because you gave your face merely a dab with a towel. I took you to task for not cleaning your shoes. I called out angrily when you threw some of your things on the floor. At breakfast, I found fault too. You spilled things. You gulped down your food. You put your elbows on the table. You spread butter too thick on your bread. And as you started off to play I made for my train, you turned and waved a hand and called, "Goodbye, Dad." And I frowned and said in reply, "Hold your shoulders back." Then it began all over again in the late afternoon. As I came up the road, I spied you down on your knees playing marbles. There were holes in your stockings, and I humiliated you before your friends by marching you ahead of me to the house. Stockings are expensive, and if you had to buy them, you'd be more careful. Imagine that, son, from a father. Do you remember later when I was reading in the library how you came in timidly with a sort of hurt look in your eyes? When I glanced up over my paper, impatient at the interruption, you hesitated at the door. "What is it you want?" I snapped. You said nothing, but ran across in one tempestuous plunge and threw your arms around my neck and kissed me, and your small arms tightened with an affection that God had set blooming in your heart, and which even neglect could not wither. And then you were gone, pattering up the stairs. Well, son, it was shortly afterwards that my paper slipped from my hands and a terrible, sickening fear came over me. What has habit been doing to me? The habit of finding fault, of reprimanding. This was my reward to you for being a boy? It was not that I did not love you. It was that I expected too much of youth. I was measuring you by the yardstick of my own years. And there was so much that was good and fine and true in your character. The little heart of you was as big as the dawn itself over the wide hills. This was shown by your spontaneous impulse to rush in and kiss me good night. Nothing else matters tonight, son. I've come to your bedside in the darkness, and I've knelt there ashamed. It is a feeble atonement. I know you would not understand these things if I told them to you during your waking hours, but tomorrow I'll be a real dad. I'll chum with you and suffer when you suffer, and laugh when you laugh. I'll bite my tongue when impatient words come. I'll keep saying as if it were a ritual, he's nothing but a boy, a little boy. I'm afraid I've visualized you as a man. Yet as I see you now, son, crumpled and weary in your cot, I see that you're still a babe. Yesterday you were in your mother's arms and your head on her shoulder. I have asked too much, too much. All right. That even kind of like gets to me reading it. I'm not gonna lie. It's it's pretty impactful.
Yeah.
Obviously it's dated, but it's impactful. There's a lot of good lines. I mean, what stuck out to you guys? I've got several.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead and talk. I need to fix my camera. Obviously, it's doing something funny.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. A lot of it was like there were a couple parts. I guess when he was talking about like I'll get to it tomorrow. Like I want to know more about what is he talking about? Like is he discussing a lot of the stuff he did over time that he's kind of remorseful for it and kind of regrets doing these things, but he's still not willing to face them and take care of them and get on it now. So I'll deal with it tomorrow. Or is it like, I don't know. That's kind of like the only thing I can come up with.
Yeah. I mean, I think as fathers, we certainly have a tough time with that. It's easy for us to, and he mentions this, he says, I'm afraid I visualized you as a man. But I see now that you're still a baby, and that's I'm guilty of that. I mean, I don't have sons, but I'm even guilty of that with my daughter. I am often visualize her as the woman that I hope she one day becomes, forgetting the fact that there's a huge expanse of time and experience to be had between now and then. And I'll be overly critical of her at times when really what she needs is comfort and encouragement.
Somebody to teach her. I do the exact same thing. See, even with behavioral issues, you know what I mean? She's like throwing a fit and stuff, and my wife will like, instead of stopping the behavior and correcting it, she'll like work with her and try and talk her and do all this soothing. And to me, sometimes it feels like gentle parenting stuff, and I'm like, I hate gentle parenting. It's such nonsense. But I also forget to remember she's 6. You know what I mean? So there's kind of a balance between the two. I mean, you can't immediately, like, as soon as she throws a fit, you can't just be like, obviously you don't want to just backhand stop it. That was how I was handled when I was a kid, but I was also a boy. So there's a difference there. When I was 6 years old, my stepdad never did any of that stuff. It was more so when I was like 12. You know what I mean? So I forget those two, and I do the same thing. Like I immediately like want to yell at her, you better stop that, or I'm gonna whoop, or I'm gonna take you, or I'm gonna take this away from you. I'm gonna throw this away, or whatever the case is. Instead of talking to her, trying to figure out what the problem is and trying to work through it to do it, I sometimes resort to that. I don't do it all the time. I'm capable of stopping myself pretty much 90% of the time. But there is that once, when that does happen, I forget the issue at hand, that she's 6. She's 6, not, she's not 12. She's not 15.
He makes an interesting point too. When the little boy comes into the library and gives him a hug, he says, and your small arms tightened with an affection that God had set blooming in your heart, and which even neglect could not wither. And it's fascinating to me because this little boy, there's several times throughout the poem where, despite the fact that the father is abrasive and critical and, just kind of complains about every little thing he does, the boy is still just loves his father to death. He waves to his father goodbye happily, and the only thing the father can do is criticize his shoulders, his posture, and then and he makes this line, I think, says it all. He's like, you have this affection in you that God has given you that even neglect couldn't wither. And that's true to a certain extent, that childlike affection that, no matter how hard I am on, like even my 8-year-old, right? No matter how critical I am of her, it seems like she just has this infinite amount of love. But and patience, right? It's like she's patient with me, as I learn how to become a better father. And but eventually that patience is going to run out. I mean, when she's 20, and all I've done is criticize her for 20 years. I mean, that won't happen, but assuming that happened, she won't have that same unlimited affection. It'll be a different relationship at that point.
And I was reading something. I think I saw it too. I saw it, like, obviously saw it in a reel. Yeah. I saw it in a reel. So, of course, I don't just take everything face value on stupid reels. So I Googled it and read some, articles and stuff about it. And actually, I guess it's kind of true. So, modern day adults, and that means us, me, you, right in our age, that have, for the most part, boomer parents. There's actually a large majority of our age adults that have completely cut off their boomer age parents. And it holds true. I mean, I'm one of them,
We ran out of that affection.
Yeah.
We ran out.
Yeah. It's because they came from the side where the mother, the father, the grandparents, everybody was involved. There's a lot more strict, old-fashioned classic. So then they kind of came into it, and it's more so what's happening is they're taking some of theirs plus a lot of like extra things plus a lot of their the connection to the new age stuff. It kind of makes them, well, when you're like, well, I have kids, Mom, can you watch my kid for a little while? Meanwhile, your mom did that to you, to your grandparents constantly. But when you do it to them, then they're like, oh no, I'm too busy. And that seems to be happening more and more and more. A lot of boomers are like, no, I'm too busy. It's going to interfere with my life. No, thank you. No, thank you. I'm busy. And they kind of have this, they have this like, no, mindset. So all of that combined is causing people our age to just be like, oh, just don't call my mom anymore. Or I just don't call my dad anymore. I just haven't talked to him in 5 years. I don't know.
I've thought about this same idea. It's funny because this kind of aligns with like a theory that I had. So my mom was always extremely critical of me when I was growing up. My dad, he was not so much, but my mom was very critical. And I mean, I still have a good relationship with my parents. Obviously, she was a good mother. But she was very critical. And but my grandmother, who I spent a lot of time with, I mean, at least every weekend, if not multiple times throughout the week. I mean, I could do no wrong in her eyes. You know what I mean? I was just like, and I think back to that. I'm like, man, I wonder if she was kind of like the balance that kind of offset that. And maybe that's the way it's supposed to be, and maybe like what you just mentioned, these boomer parents are kind of less involved in the kids' lives because it's just like this generational change. The kids are kind of missing out on that. I mean, so just as much as parents need strong fathers and mothers, I mean, they need strong grandmothers and grandfathers as well, that are willing to be a part of their life. And it's almost like my parents watch my kids fairly often, but like my wife's parents and stuff, it's like it almost seems like, and this is not to, if they're listening to this, I'm not making a critique of them, but it seems like my grandma, me spending time with her was a blessing, and me spending time and my kids spending time with my parents or my wife's parents, it almost seems like if it fits in my schedule, if I have time,
Right.
I mean, my grandma would drop anything to spend time with me. It didn't matter what it was. You know what I mean? It's like this degree. It's like this hierarchy of priority is different amongst my parents than it was amongst my parents' parents. Yeah.
All of mine live far away. So like I live in one place. My wife's parents live up in Michigan, which is like 18 hours north, and my parents and grandparents live down in South Florida, which is another 14, 15 hours south. So I live like right in the middle. My grandparents are far too old. I mean, they're in their 90s, they're far too old to be traveling or doing anything like that. So we need to go see them, which is not as easy, having a kid, family, job, school, so on and so forth. So I can't drive all the time, 14, 15 hours to go see them constantly. It's a pain in the butt. But my dad, I still have a relationship with him, and he still talks to me, and me and him still chat, and so on and so forth. And he does do the video calls with my daughter and stuff like that now and then.
That's good.
But he works full time as well. He has his own business and all this other stuff, so his time is also limited. I would like him to spend more time visiting and stuff like that, but he also has his life. But it's my wife's parents, they would spend probably as much time as physically possible with our daughter if they could.
Yeah.
They live in Michigan.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's good.
they come down often to visit us because as though they're old, they're not 90, they're 70s, so they're capable of traveling and doing stuff like that, and they're still active and healthy and living life and stuff. So it's good that my daughter at least has one side. My mother's another story. She's
Well, let me kind of jump in here. Yeah.
What do you got?
I remember the stories of your mom. They're interesting.
Fun.
But let me do this. And on the whole thought process, at least from my standpoint, because we all have different areas of our backgrounds in this and that, where for me, a lot of that poem rings in true with, like, my mom. When we talk about grandparents, my mom lives in Ohio. She tries to make it here as much as she can. I'm in the same position as Mr. Pancakes, where literally all of our families, like my wife's dad is in China. So it takes a visa to be able to get him over here to help with the kids, My mom, she comes and helps a lot, but it's once every other month. It's something like that. So it's not that she doesn't want to, but an 8-hour drive to come for a weekend is kind of an excessive thing to do, this and that. The one thing is, like, my biological father, his actions reminded me a lot of the description of the father in that story, because everything was critical. There was nothing I did that was good enough. It was always, when I was your age, I did this, or he always had a comparison. And I've said it before, and I don't have any relationship with my biological father anymore, but the fact is that I caught myself when I was younger, before I had kids, mimicking the things that he was doing, the things he was doing to me that I really hated. And I've caught myself, like, with my son. My son, he has emotional issues and things like this he needs to work on. He's 7 years old now, but he's incredibly smart as well. So the mixture of the two kind of makes it seem, and I'm not the only one that does this, where you talk with him, you expect he's smart, he understands, he blah, 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 blah. And then when he has his emotional issues, you're like, well, why is he acting this way?
That's what happens to me with my daughter.
You forget, like you said, you forget that just because they're smart, because they're excellent in these areas that you think
still 6.
They're still 6, they're still 7, they're still 8, they're still young enough. Even my 3-year-old daughter, they're still young, and you can't sit there and assume, well, this is how you should be. And
so does either of your kids have ADHD, like, at all?
I've never
or
had
you think they do? Never had them tested?
My son very well could.
So my daughter does.
What kid doesn't have ADHD?
Right. Yeah. So there's it's weird because, like, I remember when, like, autism came about, it was like there's, like, a line. It's like, clearly these people have autism. Like, it's obvious. Like, now they've made it a spectrum where if you go by the spectrum, technically speaking, everybody on Earth has autism, right? So that's which is so that just makes it nonsense. It just gives the medical companies the ability to just, oh yeah, sure, here, give me money, So, anyways, that aside, ADHD has turned into a similar situation. But there are children still that actively have it like ingrained in their genetics. My daughter is one of them. So my daughter comes from me, which is extremely ADHD, squirrel. So, and comes from my wife, who is also extremely ADHD. So she gets it from a genetic sort of standpoint, and she fits the bill, like, for real. We voided everything, tried not to go to the doctor. We eventually had to take her, get her evaluated, because it was too much to handle. And we actually got her evaluated. We still avoid medicine, and she does. So they did all the tests, and she's like, yeah, she's off the charts, like really bad ADHD. She's not even one of those kids where she got a little bit of ADHD, so we're gonna diagnose her with it like every other kid on earth, so they can get their prescription medication. Anyway, where I'm going with this is children with, like, if you read the real studies of ADHD, children who actually have ADHD, not the ones that they diagnose just for money, but the real ones, which is probably about 1% of all the people that they actually diagnose, are intellectually 2 to 3 years younger than their actual age, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So, like, my daughter is 6, right? Your son is 7.
7, yeah.
Right. So my daughter, intelligence-wise, she is like off the charts. She's like 10 or 11 years old. You know what I mean? She can handwrite cursive. She knows sign language like the top of her head. We taught her Spanish in a year. She can memorize. I mean, she's won so many awards in her school, and she goes to, like, I think the school that she goes to bounces back and forth between number 1 and number 2 in the country, like in the entire nation. So she goes to the school and she is top in her class. She's won numerous memorization awards, writing awards, all that stuff. So she's extremely, extremely, extremely intelligent. But her intellect is 2 to 3 years younger. So she has more in common with kids. Since she's 6, she's more in common with kids that are 4 on average. So she actually plays with them. Yeah.
Intellect or emotional levels? Intelligence or emotional?
Not intelligence.
I was going to say
her intelligence is high.
Yes.
Her mental status, like, who she connects with mentally. You know what I mean? That would be like intellect, or is that, I don't know.
See, when I hear intellect, I think intelligence.
Intelligence. I think
so, like,
intelligence and intellect are different. Yeah, so like an emotional level, right? So her personality, her emotions, they are similar to like a 4-year-old. All right. She does have some stuff like a 6-year-old, obviously. You know what I mean? Right. But when she goes to play on the playground, she would rather go play with one of the 4-year-olds.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
makes sense.
And it's.
I mean, I'd rather play with 4-year-olds than 7-year-olds too. 7-year-olds are kind of. 7-year-olds are kind of annoying.
As long as there's no freaking crying, no crying. I just don't. No crying. Just no crying. There's no crying in baseball. That. No crying. There is no crying in baseball.
Yeah, that does make sense to me because, like, my son, he can play with kids his own age, but I do see him playing quite a bit with younger kids and interacting with them. I always took that as part of his sister's 3, he's 7. He just turned 7. So for him, it's kind of makes sense that he's used to playing with his sister and playing games, things like that. But yeah, it does make sense in that sense because the emotional, and again, this goes to, there's all sorts of things that we don't think about. Like when I was younger, I was on Ritalin, I think it was, before they knew how to balance the levels, how to not give it to kids so that they didn't end up with issues. All these fun little facts that our generation grew up being guinea pigs for. So,
yes.
And you look at it, and even my mom and I've had this conversation, and she likes to remind me that when I was growing up, there wasn't all this information out there that we have.
Right. We didn't have the internet like we got.
Right. And like, for an example, like you said, your dad, he'll FaceTime or video call with your daughter. That's one of the things that my mom does with my kids is she'll do the video calls and be able to talk with them and connect. Yeah. And I think part of that that helps the grandparents at least feel like I'm still part of that life, but I don't have to be there all the time.
Yeah.
Which I think the whole thing is understanding, like it would be nice to have my mom here close to us to help out more, but life is what it is. And the only reason, like you talked about our generation cutting out the boomer parents, my reason is the negative effect that my biological dad had in my life.
Right.
I honestly believe that I would have been much better off in life if I had not taken his advice or heard the things that he told me.
Right.
I can guarantee you I would have been much richer. And I hate to say this, fellas, but I would have been rich enough at that time. I would have taken the chances that we wouldn't have known each other, kind of a thing. My life would have been in a completely different direction. You know what I mean? It's not that I don't enjoy talking with you guys, but the fact is I had opportunities. I could have taken them. I listened to him, and it was negative this, negative that. And like, don't get me wrong, I had a chance to get into a green energy thing when it was just new, right? But you listen to somebody that you're thinking, oh, he knows what he's talking about. And that's what kids do at about any age. They listen to their parents, expecting their parents to know. And usually it's that time until you become a parent yourself and realize that you're making it all up as you go.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a guy I work with, and I even told him, I'm like, you can buy all the books, but I have like 6 books, parenting books that I bought when my wife got pregnant with my son. And I can tell you what, almost none of them have been useful in any way, other than maybe one that taught me how to do a diaper. Other than that, nothing. So with that, we have the internet. We have all these things that help us understand stuff better. And with the better information, we can be better parents. Kind of like the guy said. What's that?
We just ask Grok now.
Yeah.
I heard a quote one time. Somebody told me, he said, and you can bleep me out if you want, but he said we're all gonna fuck our kids up somewhere or another. And he said it's just a matter of who fucks their kid up less. And I was like, man, that's like cynical, but also so real. Now that I'm a parent, I'm like, man, that dude was so right. It's like you can't help it. You know what I mean? You just you're just fumbling around in the dark trying to figure out what it means to be a good father. And I mean, you have no idea. You really don't. Some of us are lucky enough to have good role models or good mentors, but I mean, for the most part, our parents were just doing the same damn thing. They were fumbling around in the dark, just trying to figure it out.
Trying to do what they can. Yeah.
Especially if they're a first generation present father. Like my dad's dad was non-existent. You know what I mean? So I mean, I'm a little bit ahead of the game, I guess, because I can learn from his experience. But he didn't know. He absolutely did not know what the heck he was doing. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, that's for me. I'm a first generation present father. I mean, my dad was, me and him have a great relationship. He wasn't present, but not due to his fault. You know what I mean? And through the years, I always thought it was. It took me until much later in life, and probably about my mid-20s, to realize who my mother was and what she did to him and the toll it took on him and the whole family. So today I actually look at my father with a lot more respect, and a lot more like care and love, you know what I mean? Because it took a lot more for him and what he went through to deal with that. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's 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 kind of scary to see what she did to him. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See, for me, it was my father figure was basically my stepdad. My biological was growing up. I tried to be attached to him. I tried to have that relationship with him, but the entire time felt more like it was a relationship of convenience. Right. What's convenient for me to be able, kind of like you were saying, the boomer parents don't want to do something with the grandkids because it's not convenient.
Right.
That was kind of the relationship I had with my biological dad. My stepdad was more always there. And, you know, me being young and dumb, I didn't take advantage of that like I should have. He wanted to rebuild a car with me. And me, I wanted to go out and party and see girls and all these things. I was wanting to be with my, so I wanted to be with my friends. I was young and dumb. So
my stepdad was there too. I mean, but my stepdad was kind of like in and out. He was around and was there every day. But he worked a lot and he also drank a lot. So he was there, but not there. You know what I mean? So
I understand.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's difficult, in my opinion. It's a difficult thing for us fathers to look at our kids and say, you should not be doing this, and trying to rationalize, because if you think about it, most of us, we deal with a whole bunch of different things at work. If you're a gear in the clog, you're there just making sure you're getting through. You're doing what you're told, all this, so you expect when you come home, everybody's going to be doing what they're told, and it's going to be simplified and such and such. If you're in management, you're used to setting out a plan, doing what's being laid out for the people and what so have you, and then expecting those people to actually do the work that's required to do that. And depending on your position in work and things you do and what so have you, really dictates your mindset, because as much as everyone likes to go, oh, when I come home, I leave it all at the office. Now, unless you're doing something where like you're putting out a fire, you're not going to bring home putting out a fire at home, or medical treatments or things. Do you really? Well, I don't imagine you literally putting out a fire at home, but well, not physically, hopefully.
It's a bad example. I know your point.
I watched Top Gun the other day. That's like my favorite scene. Gotta put these flames out. Where he's he asked for the beer.
I didn't mean to cut you off, Eric. Yeah.
Oh, you're fine.
I knew what you meant. I was just being a smartass. Yeah.
Well, I was pointing at you as a joke, but the whole thing is we all do kind of bring our professional life and mindsets and things like that home with us.
Yeah.
And not really pushing that onto our kids and our family isn't that easy, because even if, like, I've known plenty of people that said, oh, well, I don't bring my work home. And I'm sitting there thinking, how? Because here's what happens is, if you work from home like I do, you always have work there. There's no escaping it, for better or worse. My kids, I deal with them. I come down to work after they're asleep so I can balance everything out. Work is always part of my life right now, for better or worse, but it also allows me to homeschool. It allows me to do this, and it allows me to be able to have that flexibility to be part of my family as I want to be. But again, those things that I do leak into my family life. Even if you're driving home, you're dealing with the traffic, the thought of everything you went through that day. And you might come home and go, all right, let it all go, take a deep breath, and then walk in the door and let it go. But on the same note, you still have it in your mind because you know tomorrow I need to do this. Tomorrow I need this. And you have all these things still running in your head at one point in time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me it's the same. Like since for my job I work from home. I have a little office in town that I rent to get me out of the house to kind of try to separate the two between each other. But the same concept happens. I mean, I still, I'm in staffing, so hiring people a lot of times they're at work during the day when I'm at work. So how do I get a hold of these people, right? So it has to be after hours. So I have to work during the day and then work later in the evening as well, both. Right. So, but like you said, Eric, sometimes it's good because there are times when like I can do this podcast in the middle of my day, you know what I mean? But I'm knowing that I'm going to work probably 2-3 hours more in the evening time. So I always get in probably 9-10 hours worth of work every single day anyways, plus this, plus all the other stuff. But
I do have to say though too that I feel like like an integral part of being a man and masculinity is our work. And so I think that I hate the term work-life balance. Like, I don't know that even makes sense. I think work-life integration might be a better term because ultimately, I mean, I know what you mean when you say don't bring your work home. Like, you shouldn't come home with emotional baggage that you've developed as a result of your job. But I mean, work is such a core part of who you are as a man. I mean, we're designed for that. So
what do you do when you meet another man?
Yeah, I'm kind of concerned if you're not bringing that home, to a certain extent. You know what I mean?
What do you do for work?
Yeah, there's a sense of pride that comes along with that. There's a sense of self-worth. I mean, there's character development that comes along with us engaging in our work. There's social skills we learn and develop. You should absolutely be bringing that stuff home. You know what I mean? But yeah, I agree with
what you do and what you don't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what part of your work are you bringing home, I guess is the question.
Right.
Yeah, that's really what it comes down to.
Go ahead, Eric. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. I was agreeing with you that it is what part of work you bring home with you. I absolutely agree with you there. It's simply not black and white as we don't bring our work home. So yeah, continue on. I apologize for interrupting. I was like I said, agreeing.
No, I actually had a kind of a different thought. So I'm kind of thinking about the idea of a present father and like reading through this poem, and I mean, it feels like the character in the poem, the father, is a present father. I mean, I understand that he's trying to become a better father, but I don't know. I feel like, I mean, you guys both had fathers that weren't present per se. I don't know. I feel like it's better to be a criticizing present father than it is to not be present at all. I mean, obviously,
statistics actually show that.
Do they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Statistics
actually
of course.
Show.
Yeah, single mother households are just a travesty. Yeah.
It's
even
better
the conversation with John Finch pointed that out
in the home.
Right. Yeah. Peter, Jordan Peterson. I believe it was Jordan Peterson. He made the analogy of, a father's. So like a mother's approval comes in the form of like a participation award, right? Every handprint turkey that you put on the refrigerator gets a gold star in the corner. You know what I mean? From mom. But dad's is like the championship trophy. Like when you get dad's approval, you really worked for it. And that's actually that's an important balance for a kid to have. Because, I mean, we see what happens when the kid only ever gets the participation award, right? I mean, like you said, the single mother household statistics prove it.
Yeah, and there's 100 things out there that are the difference between a husband and a mother, or a father and a mother. I mean, that those separations they're absolutely imperative for children. You know what I mean? I mean, you can't have a single mother with 2 boys, raising 2 boys, and then going to school with all women teachers. coming home with their mothers again. You know what I mean? Back to back to back to back to back to back. There's no male influence. I mean, they may come across men or whatever now and then.
They might get lucky.
How often is maybe they go to soccer practice? They got a male coach, but
coach,
that's what 1 hour a week, right?
Yeah.
1 hour a week, you know, and he's in the middle of coaching 12 other kids at the same time. So really, it's only about 10 minutes a week. So that not having that masculine, you know, you need that, like in a way, you know, because even in things like discipline, you know, women can discipline their way, and it does work. There are ways that women discipline, and there's nothing wrong with the way women discipline. They're women. They're supposed to be that way, you know. But there are some times when men need to be their way. You know, there needs to every now and then be a man that says, "You better," you know what I mean? That has to be there. You know what I mean? It's not to be all biblical and oh God and stuff like that, but I mean, you read all that stuff and you read it in the Bible. I mean, it's all there and it lays it out. I mean, it's if you read about, you know, traditional family households and where or the original traditionalism came from. I think it was like Europe. You know what I mean? Then it moved its way over into the United States and stuff in the early years and stuff, and then eventually kind of adopted this version of American traditionalism, and where they kind of combined, like how you were saying, work and family household, where they kind of combined the idea of you know, capitalism and work and stuff like that, mixed with, you know, biblical stuff, mixed with family household and traditional nuclear family and the style of it, because the traditional family household over in Europe, where it started from, was slightly different than what we're looking at as American traditionalism. Where American traditionalism is, you know, your immediate family, you know, mother, father, kids, nuclear family, right? And then you have, you know, grandparents and stuff like that, and maybe they live close, you know, but traditionalism from the European side is they all lived in the same household. You know, as one dies, another one comes, and they die and comes. Now it just continuously cycles, where we don't really do that way.
Multi-generational households.
Generational households, where the American traditionalism is different in that aspect, but actually is kind of shown to be good, you know, and you have to have both assets. You have to. It's just there's the difference between the two, and they have to be there. So.
Yeah, and you know, it's kind of hard to say traditions in what traditions. I think we've had an episode before talking about traditionalism and all these things. You know, it's, I don't know, digging into, and again, whatever your traditions are, but as a whole, the traditions of having the family as mother, father, like Tom said, a father that's not as present is better than an absent father. One that's there but not a great father is better than a father that's not there or only there during his most convenient times.
Right. So, even a bad father. They even did a study on a bad father. Like an abusive bad father in the home with the mother is better than no father, which seems bad. It seems like, holy crap, why would you say that? But you can't negate fact. The fact is there. So,
well, like I made a comment to Tom earlier, because him and I talked with John Finch from The Father Effect, who I love it. I love what he puts out. I really enjoyed his book, and not that I'm plugging it, but yeah, he really is. And but the fact is the absence of a father, and he even said that even a stepfather is a good start, but it's not the same as having your biological father be part of your life, because you still wonder, what did I do not to want him? And like was said earlier, your work going to your father for your father's approval is the grand trophy, the ultimate prize to gain, where like my wife is always going up to my son, I love you, I love you, I love you. And don't get me wrong, I tell my son and I tell my daughter I love him, I give him kisses and hugs, but I don't do it as much as my wife does, where my wife is much more there. In fact, my son was trying to come in because he thought he could sneak into the camera and make a cameo. But the fact is that us as fathers, we are more stricter generally. Right. We are stricter. We are there, and we do set a different precedence of what our standards are versus what the wives are, what the mothers are. Right. And as in the poem, the guy was saying he was there. This was written in a time when fathers really didn't abandon their kids, and that wasn't really as big of an issue. I want to say it's probably before the government got involved in marriage and got involved in subsidies to be single mothers, but that's here or there. Yeah.
We can go on that for hours.
I really can. But the fact comes down to is that he realized that he wasn't being a good father. He realized he was being too critical. He was being too, and in Dale Carnegie's book, he was using this poem as a way of pointing out that when you deal with somebody, you need to measure them by their standards and not by yours, because everybody has their own standards. And if you want to be able to bond with them and grow a relationship with them, and as a father, like I can tell you, before my son got into all these reptiles and lizards and amphibians and mammals and so on, a lot of things I never thought I would actually know until I know now. I could tell you that before my kid, I would not have been picking up snakes. I would not have been holding salamanders and geckos. And my theory is, if it didn't have fur, it's not a pet. You know? Now the neighbors call me and say, "Hey, we have a snake, black snake." I'm like, "Oh, it's a rat snake. Here, let me come get it for you." And I'm picking up these 5 foot, 6 foot long black snakes and getting pissed on by them as I'm carrying them off to wherever they want to do, or musked or whatever it's called. So fantastic smell, by the way. But yes. Generally, as a father, we're forced into discovering things about us that we never really want to actually do beforehand. Whereas the my cats, just as bad as my kids trying to make cameos, what I'm trying to get at here is that if I would have judged my kid as, we don't touch these animals, we don't touch these creatures as adults, then I would have been sitting there going, "No, don't touch that. No, leave that alone. Let it crawl away. Let's do this. Let's do that." Instead, I took the time. I thought about, here, let's pick it up. Let's look at it. Like, the snake bit me. It didn't bite hard. When I pick up the snakes, this and that, because here in Northern Virginia, trust me, I'm well aware of the poisonous snakes not to touch, like the copperbacks. And
live in Florida. Or you don't touch anything. You die.
Yeah, you guys have all sorts of things down there.
Even people. You don't touch people, you will die.
Florida is a special place. That is definitely for sure. But
you can get fentanyl poisoning just by shaking somebody's hand.
I've heard that. But I like where Dale Carnegie went with that poem, in the sense of, he used it in a way for a tool to say, if you're judging your kids or whoever you're meeting, in the sense of, these are my standards. So, like, for an example, I had to have a conversation with a girl about design things and all this. I've been dealing with the design software I've been dealing with for, let's see here, 20 years. I've been designing for 20 or 30 years. I've been dealing with this software for the last decade and a half or so. So talking to somebody that's just out of college or out of school, about software to try to get their insight on something. If I would have sat there and goes, okay, I expect her to talk this way, I expect her to act this way, then I would have shut off the moment that she would have talked like a 20-something-year-old that I just on the street, or if it was a Starbucks barista, I would have been like, just shut up and give me my coffee. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But because I sat there and said, okay, she doesn't have my experience, but she has information or knowledge that I can use one way or another. So I had to give up that mindset of judge her by what I've been through, judge her by my experience. Just like I can't judge my son because my son is very much a nature person. I am only a nature person in the regards of what it is for my son. Right. So I have to accept him for the things he likes, the things he does. Understand that, he goes to nature class. He went to nature class this week. I literally said, stay out of the water. He came home with his clothes, and I always send a spare set of clothes because I know better. He came home with his clothes in a bag because they were wet, coming back with his spare clothes on. Because he went in because the teacher of that class said, we're going to look at turtles. Well, of course, you cannot just stand on the edge of the stream to grab a turtle. You have to go into the very center of it with all your. But beforehand, I would have been furious. Why are you doing this? I told you not to do this.
Right.
It's all that's doing is getting me upset, making him feel bad. And instead of saying, I'm like, why are your clothes wet? Well, we went to get turtles. That explains it. Okay. Did you catch anything? I did, but it was invasive and blah, 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 blah. Okay. So you had fun and you learned stuff. Yes. Okay. My money's not going to waste. You're learning something. I'm happy with that.
Yeah. It's all
I can do laundry. It's not the worst thing. Socks, clothes. I mean, we have so many clothes at this point. And if you're worried about the expensive clothes, Goodwill, especially with kids.
Yeah.
Don't buy brand new clothes if you don't have to. Thrift stores, Goodwill, especially if you have boys, because even my daughter, half her pants are soaked, stained in mud. Yeah. So, I mean,
Facebook Marketplace is big on that. We trade clothes back and forth with people all the time.
Do you? I know I need a list of a lot of kids stuff that's filling up half my garage. It's
yeah.
We buy all kinds.
Three kids are all 6 years, 7 years apart. So trust me, we have like boxes. Like, it's time to bust out the 5-year-old box again. It's like, oh my gosh.
See, your saving grace is you have daughters.
Yeah, they're all the same.
I have my only saving grace is my daughter can wear my son's clothes, but mix them with girl clothes, like a boy shirt and girl pants, boy pants, girl shirt,
neutral
things like that
and stuff.
Well, like
just
even
buy all browns with no writing on them or anything,
all gray or yellow.
Well, see, that's the thing is like the boy stuff can be mixed with girl stuff. That's easy enough. It's not like
mixed with the boy stuff.
Exactly. I was going to say that's my only saving grace.
Flowers.
Yeah, no.
Field's character.
Just like a boy named Sue.
Yeah, boy named Sue.
Yes. I love the end of that song. When I have a son, I'm going to name him anything but Sue.
Yeah, John something.
Yeah, I went through a whole list. So, but yeah, it's just crazy on the things that we need to, as men, as fathers, we need to remember in our own lives. And I think that mastering this skill with our kids, not just our sons, but daughters as well, for you guys, it's like you said, you guys are in the same position. So it's not just a son issue. It's children as a whole. And I think for us to master that with our kids overall would be a challenge, or a challenge that we would be able to overcome in our whole life altogether, because improving what we're doing, what we're saying, our lives as a whole. I like to always say, be better so they're better. If you're better in your life outside your family, you bring that into your family. Like Tom said, there's no real true life-work balance. It's honestly what life or work-life integration.
Yeah.
And that makes a whole lot more sense to me than work-life balance, because especially now in today's world where you're constantly working from home or doing things like that, your work life and your home life, like literally, like I said, mine are one and the same.
They interact, intergrained.
Oh yeah. So
yeah.
I kid you not, I have a light that obviously my son ignores. That's supposed to indicate when I'm on a call that you're not supposed to come in on the call for.
Get an on the air light.
Oh, I didn't see the light, Dad.
No, I have two of them. So
they're lights in the same place it always is.
Yeah, the problem is they're only on during certain times. Yeah. And he likes to play with the remote for it, so he knows where they're at.
Oh, geez. You gotta get the big red bulb on the outside of the door, and then underneath it says on air.
On air.
That's awesome.
I can almost guarantee that would have him coming in a lot quicker. Oh, I can, because he loves, like, I kid you not, I will pop open the camera feature on my computer and just let him record himself, and then I'll play it back, and then I'll do some editing for him every now and then. Yeah. Sometimes he'll be fighting monsters, and I'll add him to the screen. That's one of the nice things about doing the editing, is I've learned how to do those type of things. So cool. Like Mr. Pancakes, I could literally have pancakes floating over your head. But the fact is if you're, like I said, it's one of those things that my personal thought is being a better father helps you be a better person all around, and being a person all the way around will help you be a better father. It's that whole circle of things. I mean, we've been kind of digging into this for about an hour now or so. I think we've kind of dug deep into it. My thinking is we could probably run a whole lot more examples.
Yeah.
I think we can give a whole lot more analytical thinking of the different ways this could apply. But then I also think that
pretty good.
I was going to say any longer, I think people would start also kind of drifting off. So
like meandering.
Yes. So let's do this. What is your guys' actual final thoughts that you've kind of got from our discussion on this? Is there anything? Do you think anything of it? And then so on and so on. Mr. Pancakes, Tom?
Go ahead. Yeah, I mean, I think I was impacted by this poem, years and years ago. The first time I read it, maybe even read it before I had kids. I don't really remember, but I think that a lot of the things we took from it are pretty on point. I mean, the idea that being a criticizing father might be better than being a present father, but the fact that the father in the poem is actually questioning his ability to be a father, I think, is really the ultimate point, right? As fathers, present fathers, our goal is to become better present fathers. And if you're not constantly trying to find a way to become a better present father, then, you might not be cut out for it. So I think that his musings are kind of, important for all of us. So to kind of learn from. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, listening to it and kind of everything we talked about, a lot of the stuff, I mean, it's definitely, I mean, it's kind of like the entire basis of this podcast, right? The entire idea behind it, right? That's pretty much the basis for almost any father, for the most part, is what am I doing? How do I do this? What's going on? I have no idea. What is it? Triangle in the circle hole? Right. None of it makes any sense, and everybody's confused. And how do I do it? And you're kind of just winging it. And it's kind of the goal of the podcast overall in general is to, show that, we don't know either. We're not experts. Right. That's why we talk about it all the time, and to show others that there is no expert, way to do anything. These are our ways. We tried this, we tried that, and this is how it goes. So we all learn. It's not a safe space or anything. We're not, no one's wearing purple hair and rainbow flags or nothing, but it is at least a place where people can come and listen to what we have to say. Not that we're experts, but at least we can work through most stuff. I kind of feel like that poem and everything we talked about today kind of correlates with the whole idea of the podcast in the first place. Also, I also think a lot of the stuff in the poem, a big part of it is controlling your emotions as a man. Most people even talk about it, what does your wife think of you if you're constantly like overly emotional, blasting, freaking out, yelling, everything's a problem, all the time. You know what I mean? Why does she want to be around that? When she met you, you're probably a little bit more cool, probably chill. Granted, a lot of things are changed. You got multiple kids, it's a lot more stress. So, but you're also a man. As much as society wants to push women are equal, men have this authority that a lot of women don't hold, and this accountability that they will never hold, no matter what, and there is no way around it. So as a man, you need to kind of, I don't know, sack up, learn to control your emotions and work through these things a little bit better. Those are kind of my thoughts.
Sounds good. So, yeah, I mean, I agree. There's everything there. And if you have any questions, concerns, you can reach out to us at callwithdads.com, where we have the contact us form. You have links to all of our profiles and such like that. Tom, where do you want people to reach out to you at? And if they have questions or want to kind of look up, even you have a new line of merchandise out too, right?
Yeah. So at Earn Her Respect is my Twitter page. From there, there's a link in the bio to marriage material, marriage-material.com. You can check it out if you want. Some funny stuff, some heartfelt stuff. It's kind of catered towards fathers and husbands that are kind of tired of the cultural decay and want to make a statement. So, go check it out if you're interested. You'll probably see more of the merchandise being plugged. I know I'm always drinking from my coffee cups. This isn't mine, but this is one of my favorites. But but in the future, I'll be drinking from my marriage material coffee cups.
There you go.
I guess Pancakes back here too. Yeah. So the normal pancakeswithyourdad.com. That's kind of like the centralized location. We are on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, True Social, and X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. X, eventually we'll all just say X and everyone will know what it means, but X. Those are all the 5 social media locations. The best bet, you can reach out to me on any of them. But there is the contact page on the website. And don't forget about the shop and some of the free resources. You go there, you can download woodworking stuff. There's all kinds of books and magazines to read through. We do have the children's series, The Justice Frogs. There's currently 3 books, more in time as time goes on. I don't know when, but more in time as time goes on. Just know every time you buy a book, I do get $1.72 in profit. And I take that $1.72 and it pools until I can get enough money to buy another book. And when I buy the books, those books go to local libraries or donations to anywhere that takes books. Those are the books. The other stuff in the shop, there's plenty of shirts and mugs and nonsense and shenanigans. There's a blanket with pancakes on it. It's awesome. It's a blanket with pancakes on it. When you buy that stuff, obviously there's a profit margin. The profit goes to us to help us, buy more stuff, promote ads, or make more media, multimedia, stuff like that, and for all of this, it helps us produce more. So, But also in the future, as time is coming on, the nonprofit is still in works. Still waiting on what's new, the federal government to get on the ball. But one of these days, it is paid for. The license and all that stuff is on its way. Hopefully, one of these days, the next coming months, we will get it back, and I will get the approval, and I will be able to build more. There is a website if you would like to go to it. It is American-Liberty-Foundation.org. You can check it out. Obviously, it's not 100% done, but there is some stuff on there, some information, even a couple courses, even though the courses aren't 100% done, but they are at least there in text form. So, and as time goes on, more will build. So.
Sounds perfect.
But
that all
also,
being said,
I forgot, since I'm being shown, and everyone wants to know who I am, my name,
yes.
similar to EA Maynard, my name is also Eric. Weird, right? I know. But yeah. Hi. Nice to meet everybody in person, face to face. So my name is also Eric. So everybody just calls me Mr. Pancakes.
It's just a weird coincidence.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, with that, it's good to actually be able to show Eric, Mr. Pancakes, to everybody, kind of give him more of a presence so that people can actually see your face, see your expressions, which is fantastic, because with some of the crazy things you say and such like that, the expressions definitely do help. With that, remember to share, let people know about Call of Dads. Doing that helps us much more than you realize. Like the show, like our shorts, share our shorts on every social media you can, because everyone needs to know how to be a better dad one way or another. Other than that, thank you all. This is going to be the end of the show for you guys, but we're going to keep talking.
Before we go, since I'm in all black, we're going to roll right into Poetry Hour. Just kidding. See you guys.
Bye.
See you.